Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking past the spreadsheets and quarterly reports to get into what really defines success in business today. We're talking about the new rules of the game: ethics, governance, and social responsibility.
So let's just dive right in with the big question, right? Is making a profit enough anymore? For a long time, the answer from most companies would have been a pretty confident yes. But, as you're about to see, that simple answer just doesn't cut it in today's world.
And to really get why, we need to wrap our heads around this idea: corporate social responsibility, or CSR. Now, this isn't about giving to charity once a year. It's a core belief that a company is part of a bigger system, and its own success is tied directly to the health of the society and the planet it operates on. But what happens when companies just pay lip service to these ideas? What's the real price tag for ignoring ethics? Well, as we're about to see, the fallout can be, it can be absolutely devastating, not just for a company's image, but for its very survival. Okay, first up, a story that sent shockwaves through the entire car industry: Volkswagen's Dieselgate. And let's be clear, this wasn't some small accounting error. This was a massive, intentional lie that ended up costing the company billions and just completely vaporized trust. The way they did it was almost deviously simple. They coded a piece of software, this defeat device, that was smart enough to know when the car was in a lab being tested. And in those moments, it ran perfectly clean. But the second it hit a real road, boom, it was pumping out pollution at up to 40 times the legal limit. A total betrayal. Now let's jump to another household name, Nike. They faced a totally different kind of firestorm, one that wasn't about technology, but about people. It was a crisis that started deep in their supply chain and ended up sparking a global movement.
This whole episode was a huge wake-up call for corporations everywhere. See, when news broke about terrible working conditions and even child labor in factories making their shoes, Nike's first move was to say, hey, not our factories, not our problem. But people, their customers, didn't buy it. The boycotts were huge and the damage was real, forcing Nike to completely rethink its responsibilities.
So we've seen systemic corporate failures, but it's not always about the system. Sometimes it's about the person at the top. And for that, there's no better, or maybe worse, example than Martin Shkreli, who quickly became known as the Pharma Bro. So his company got the rights to a drug, a life-saving drug, by the way, and he jacked up the price. When the world reacted in horror, this was his defense. A really raw, unapologetic statement that basically says the only thing that matters is making money. And that quote, that mindset, it led directly to this number: a 5,000% increase overnight, from $13 to $750 for one pill. Now, it may have been legal, but the public outrage was explosive. It forced a nationwide debate about corporate greed and whether just following the law is actually enough.
Okay, so we've looked at some pretty spectacular failures. It kind of makes you wonder, how do companies get it right? How do you build a business that has ethics baked into its DNA, especially when you're operating all over the world?
Well, it all starts with something called corporate governance. The easiest way to think about this is like a company's internal rule book or its constitution. It's the whole system that's supposed to keep everyone accountable and ensure decisions are made fairly to stop those kinds of disasters we just saw before they can even start. And the good news is companies don't have to pull this out of thin air. There's a whole toolkit of global standards they can use as a guide. You've got things like the UN Global Compact, which focuses on human rights, or the GRI standards, which create a common language for reporting on environmental impact. It's basically a roadmap for how to do business the right way. But here's where it gets tricky. Having a solid rulebook is one thing, but what happens when you're playing on a dozen different fields, each with its own unwritten rules? Culture adds a whole new layer of complexity to everything. Seriously, a management style that works perfectly in one country can be a total disaster in another. Think about it. In a place like China, there's a high respect for hierarchy and authority.
But in Scandinavia, it's all about equality, and you're expected to challenge your boss. Or compare the US, which is super individualistic, with Japan, where the harmony of the group comes first. You can't just use a one-size-fits-all approach.
And when companies don't get this, oh boy, do things go wrong. You get miscommunications, missed deadlines, totally different ideas about teamwork. You can even have entire multi-million-dollar deals fall apart, all because of a fundamental lack of cultural understanding. It is a minefield out there.
So with all that in mind, where is business heading? Well, what we're seeing is this incredible shift, where being responsible is moving from the donation department right into the heart of a company's core strategy.
You can really track the evolution. It started out as just charity, CSR 1.0. Then it got a little more sophisticated, integrating green practices into the supply chain, let's say. But where we are now, or at least where we're headed, is CSR 3.0, creating shared value. This is where companies are actually building their business around solving social problems, proving you can make a profit and make a difference at the same time.
So what's the driving force behind this huge evolution? What's pushing companies to move from simple charity to a core mission? Well, in one word, it's us. We, the consumers. We have more information, more choice, and more power than ever before. I mean, just look at this. When you ask people what they value in a brand today, the number one answer by a lot is transparency. We want to know how things are made. We care about sustainability. We care about fair wages. We are actively choosing to give our money to companies that share our values.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all. The future of business isn't just being decided in some high-rise boardroom. It's being decided by you, by me, by all of us, every single time we pull out our wallets. The power really has shifted. And for any company that wants to succeed in the years to come, the most important question is no longer just what do you sell, but what do you stand for?